And okay, so it is my pleasure to move along in the program and introduce Gabriel Lowe. And Gabriel is a just did you just graduate high school or? Wow, that's awesome. And so his target is to go to medical school, I think. That's what I hear from the grapevine. We really never spoke about this, but that's what they tell me. And we'll get you there. Steve will write you a great letter. And his mom has periodic paralysis, and so that's how he knows about it. But he also has periodic paralysis. But in spite of having periodic paralysis, he did some really amazing things. He is a super athlete, a triathlete. He runs, he swims, he bikes. And he rode across the United States to raise awareness for rare diseases, with a special shout out to periodic paralysis. And this was an intense, grueling journey that any normal person who doesn't have a muscle disease would have trouble doing, and he did it in spite of that. And it's really something extraordinary. Now, some of us maybe can aspire to do that. Some of us have to recognize our limitations and not do that. But he can do it. He did it, and he's awesome. So after that, he did a triathlon and competed in what was it? Was it a U.S. national triathlon tournament of sorts, championship? So he got 12th in the nation of that. So that qualified him to go on to further competitions. And our hope is that if he continues to succeed, no pressure, because you still can just become a doctor. That's fine. But how awesome is it to have a successful athlete be a voice for our disease? And he's doing it. So thank you for motivating and giving of yourself and combining your two passions to be very productive and helpful for us. So now I guess. We have a video that was made that you don't know about, but we wanted to start that video now, I guess. Let's do it.
I've been thinking a lot about this, and I still can't find words that really describe how I feel about this. I mean, of course, I'm incredibly excited, and I guess humbled. This is happening. Like, I'm doing this. I can't. It's crazy, and I know it'll be hard along the way. I won't forget what I'm riding for. I'm riding for my mom. I'm riding for everyone who has been affected by rare diseases, by periodic paralysis, by any kind of adversity that has happened to people with our circumstances. That, to me, is the biggest, most incredible thing that I feel humbled to be a part of. And I want to thank Strongbridge. I want to thank my mom, my dad for helping me so much. I don't know what else to say. I think let's ride for rare diseases. Woo! Woo!
Wyoming is pretty beautiful.
Nice, brother.
I've been thinking a lot about this, and I still can't find words that really describe how.
So Gabe, this is your show now for the next little bit. Now, interestingly, after that, he swam across the Atlantic to get to Ireland.
Thanks so much. Wow, that was the first time I'd seen that video, and it was awesome, man. Going through that, seeing some of those memories, yeah, just unbelievable. That happened. It's crazy. So I'll introduce myself a little bit more, even though most people probably know a bit. Gabriel Lau, Gabe, that's me. I'm 17 from Hilo, Hawaii, and like you said, just graduated high school. Triathlete, and also was diagnosed with hypokalemic periodic paralysis when I was 6 years old. So today I talk about all sorts of things, and I will, but I think I want to focus on my journey with this, with periodic paralysis, with the disease, and I'll share it, and it's it's a cool one, but it's also it's so much. I feel it's so much. My journey was one of real relative ease compared to so many people who face kind of the same things, and I bet so many people in this room. So that's something I wanted to say, but I guess I'll just start. So when I was a little kid, I remember seeing my mom paralyzed, like all the time, and we never knew what it was. She would be in bed and not be able to get up. She'd be in bed for days. She would get up and then sit in a wheelchair and walk around, and we'd go outside, and that was kind of almost a normal thing when I was 4 or 5 years old. And I think when I was around 6, we finally started to understand what might have been wrong. And after her journey was an incredibly long, hard-fought journey, but when she finally got it, I all of a sudden remember she got on her bike and she started riding her bike. And we had a bike ride out we lived in a little town in Alaska, and we rode out 50 miles to raise, I think, awareness. It was the pedal for paralysis or something. I'm not totally sure, but I remember that. And that moment was when she got her diagnosis, when she got Diamox. And I remember that was a huge change in our lives. And shortly after that, I was diagnosed. My mom noticed that when I was a little kid, I was usually this crazy little guy with ADHD, running around, but sometimes I would lay down on the ground and just not get up, or I wouldn't come when they called, "Come on, Gabe," and no, nothing happened. So the doctor that diagnosed us that diagnosed my mom said, "Oh, take him in sometime when he's like that, and we'll see what's up." And they did the next time I was like that. So I don't remember the story. This is her telling me the story. But the next time I was like that, she took me in, and it wasn't actually the doctor. It was another doctor stepping in, and he kind of knew about periodic paralysis and how my mom was diagnosed, but he didn't believe that I was really paralyzed. As a little 6-year-old kid, I was probably faking it. I was probably just messing around, copying my mom that I'd seen paralyzed so much. So he held me up on the hospital bed, this like little paralyzed guy, and said, "All right, so he's probably faking. So when I drop him, he'll catch himself." Yeah. So he dropped me, and he barely caught me, before my face smashed into the ground, and it was, oh, okay, my bad. We'll get him potassium and help him. And so that was kind of my diagnosis, which probably was a lot easier than so many of yours and so many people who go through that. But that was when my kind of journey started, I guess. But after that, I got Diamox, I got potassium, I got medicine, and I guess I just grew up with it. And actually, my little brother was also diagnosed kind of after I was. So our whole family kind of converted into, we have periodic paralysis, so we have very careful diets. We always take our medications. Don't forget to take your potassium. And it was just normal. And I remember growing up as a normal kid. And I never really... I think as a little kid, it was really hard for me to actually understand that I had the same thing that caused my mom to paralyze so often. I didn't understand it. And growing up more and more, I almost became like defiant and said, no, I never paralyzed. I'm strong. I became an athlete, a soccer player, and then I could ride my bike, and I never paralyzed like my mom did. And I almost forgot about it, or I guess maybe became, not arrogant, but just not actually accepting this. But I continued taking my medicine and being careful with my diet because, I had my whole life. And, even up until high school and the second year of high school, I went away on a foreign exchange, which was incredible, and I became more of an athlete. That's when I started triathlons about 2 years ago, and I was on my own for the first time. My parents weren't kind of telling me not what to eat and what not to eat, and I just ate what I wanted to, and I still took my medicine, but I never paralyzed. I had this idea that periodic paralysis was total paralysis like my mom happened, or, when periodic paralysis was when you walk all funny like this because your legs don't work. And that never happened to me. So I kind of went away from my thinking, I guess, in my little world. It just wasn't really a part of it. So I kept doing triathlons, and I got better at triathlons, trained all the time, and I came back to Hawaii and still wanted to do more triathlons. And there was this one triathlon that was only about 6 months ago, the Lava Man triathlon. It was the longest triathlon I'd ever done, but it was also what could qualify me for the age group national championships in Cleveland. That was what I wanted to do, and I was excited. So that was my big focus, and I was all excited about that. And I trained up for it and got everything ready, and I did it. I was really looking forward to it. I started the day all excited, and woke up really early. Got all my stuff together, went to the race, and it started. And I noticed as soon as I started going into the water that something was feeling a little different. It's a swim, bike, run, and a triathlon, and I started swimming, and something felt weird. It didn't feel like I normally felt. And I also, I was like, okay, the swim, I never really am that great at swim, so I'll wait till I get on my bike, and I'll be really fast, and I'll go past everybody. So I finished my swim, and I got on my bike, and started to pedal, and I was next to my friend, who usually I can smoke on the bike. I leave him way behind. And I'm next to him, and I'm going, and he's staying right behind me. And I'm thinking, what is happening? Something's wrong. And then he gets in front of me, and I said, something is definitely wrong, because this guy cannot beat me on my bike. I'm fast on my bike. So I knew that something was wrong, and my legs started to feel kind of weird, too. And I started to think, what could it be that's not letting me do what I wanted to do? I tried to think maybe, so I was sick that the like a week before that, so I thought that must be it. I must be sick. and that's causing something weird to happen. So I kept going, and all right, I finished this, and I finished the bike part, and I heard my mom saying, "Did you take your potassium?" or something like that, something similar. And I was like, oh no. And I realized I must have not taken some, of some potassium that morning, and maybe forgotten my Diamox the night before because it was so exciting. And in all the excitement before the race, I just didn't think about it. And it like snapped. I was like, oh, this is happening to me. I thought back to stories my mom would tell when she was a biker. She was a bike racer, actually, when she was in high school. That's an incredible story. But and she would sometimes have races where she wouldn't go as fast, and she told me her legs just wouldn't go. They would still go, but just not as fast, not as strong as they usually were. And that's exactly what I was feeling then. And it kind of dawned on me that, yeah, I'm having a paralysis attack. Not an actual paralysis attack, but it was affecting me in a way that actually affected me. And I started running, and that's the last part of that triathlon. I didn't have time to go get some potassium and go back. I was in a race, so I had to go. And I started running, and automatically I could tell my feet felt so much heavier than they'd ever felt before when I was running. And I started to get a little scared. My feet are heavy. My feet aren't supposed to be heavy. I'm running. And I kept going, and my legs got heavier and heavier. And towards the end of the race, it was on a beach, which is the worst place to have the end of a race because it's all sink in. And my legs were so heavy, and there was about, a kilometer maybe of running on the beach. And I couldn't run with my legs like I usually did. I had to fling them because my quads were just, it didn't work. And I couldn't figure out why, and I was so confused, but I ran and I flung them, and I jumped over the finish line, and a lady tried to hand me some water, and I fell on top of her, and I finished, and it was incredible, but I couldn't get up. I was done. And the medics have seen this before, and it's not that odd when you finish a race to be like stuck on the ground. So they took me, and they threw ice all over me, and I could hear them talking, and they were like, "Oh, we got to get him a whole bunch of sugar and sodium and electrolytes to pick him back up." And I could tell don't. I have this weird thing where I'm supposed to only have potassium and it'll help me, but I couldn't talk. It was I'd never experienced that before that I remembered. And so luckily my mom was there, and she saw immediately as I came over, he's having an attack, and she had some potassium with her. All they had was IV potassium, but she had some fizzies, and she brought those over, some potassium, like bicarbonate effervescent, and she brought those over, and I started drinking them, and I couldn't lift my neck up. I guess like a straw. I had to use a straw to drink it, and that had never happened to me before, and it was really scary. But all of a sudden, after I got my potassium, it was only probably 15 minutes, maybe 30. I don't know. I don't remember that well, but until I was able to start sitting up and shaking around and stand up and walk around, and it was over as soon as it kind of started, and that was crazy. I'd never experienced that before. And my mom was like, "You should have had potassium in your water bottle. I told you," but you were like, "No, I'll be fine." And I ended up, I wasn't fine. I had a paralysis attack. And that kind of clicked in me. That was, I guess, the start of the second part of this journey that I've had with periodic paralysis. Is I finally kind of understood and accepted what was going on with me. And after that, I went on a hike with my dad, and we were talking, and I was talking all about how I actually had an attack and actually have this. It's crazy. And more thing, I was just kind of understanding things, and it was hard. It was a lot to take on that I'd actually just been affected by something that I didn't really think I had. So I was thinking a lot more about it, and at the same time, so at that race, I actually still finished second in my age group and was able to qualify for the race, which I wanted to, which was awesome. I couldn't kind of believe it for the bad race I had, but I was still doing that, so that was also on my mind. It was both, I need to get to Cleveland for this triathlon race in August, and also that periodic paralysis is now a bigger part of my life. And when those things happen, and me and my dad are both guys who have huge ideas, it kind of gets us in trouble sometimes, but we were talking, why don't you ride your bike to Cleveland, and why don't you make it an awareness ride? And we just started talking about it more and more, and it just, I guess, it happened. And I about a week after that, I started making a website, and about a week after that, I wrote the PPA. I wrote Linda and told her about what I'm thinking about doing, and she thought it was incredible. And then a little bit after that, I got in contact with Strongbridge, and Strongbridge said, "Oh, we'll definitely support you. This is something we are totally aligned with." And then all of a sudden, I was in Seattle about to start this 3,000-mile bike ride across the country to raise awareness for periodic paralysis and rare diseases. And that all came together because I think the acceptance that of my disease was so important for me, and it's almost hard to have this. It's hard to talk about sometimes because I think of how lucky I was compared to so many people, because it hasn't held me back as much. It has held me back so little that there's a little sense of guilt sometimes. And what Jake, he was saying, this excruciating ride that was so hard to ride, 3,000 miles. I had fun with it. The riding part was great. And it was a journey, of course. I'm not going to deny it, but it wasn't near as hard of a journey as so many other people go through every day with periodic paralysis who maybe aren't as lucky as I am. Sorry, I got kind of off track. So I could say more after, but then when the ride started, it was something that kind of blew my mind. I mean, you saw in the video, I couldn't believe it was actually happening. But it was. And I started riding my bike, and all of a sudden I was off every day, riding again and again, and it was incredible. And the whole ride was awesome, but the best part of the ride for me, and the most, I guess, impactful part and life-changing part and inspiring part, was meeting patients and talking to them and hearing their stories and realizing how important what I was doing was, I think, and how much bigger it was than, because when I started this, I was kind of thinking, oh, I'll go have fun and I'll ride my bike across the country. But how I've now understood how much bigger it is, and it's really humbling to understand that what this ride was doing was so impactful in so many other ways than just for me to have a cool ride. Like I heard the incredible thing that with the PPA that before I started this ride, there were about 70 hits on their website each week, and during the ride it was like 4,000. Wow. Yes. Wow. Wow. That's awesome. That is so great. And well, I just heard that when I finished the ride, and it blew my mind, and it really like got me thinking how, 'cause that's what this was really for. Was the awareness, and was the knowledge, and was the support that is not there and is needed. So I could talk a lot more all the time, but I guess I want to say some key points for me that really the ride was how it was impactful. And the first one that I talked about was how, for me, understanding and kind of, I guess, opening up with the vulnerability and not kind of hiding this weird thing that we have, and how big of a change that made, and how much of a positive influence that had on so many. Because I was a little scared when I first paralyzed. I was super scared. I was like, this is real. It wasn't something that my mom had just told me my life or my whole life. It was there, and that really was impactful for me. And the second, another thing that really was impactful was during the ride and talking to people and hearing stories. I understood how big this is, and how I am now so inspired to continue doing similar things to what I was doing. Awareness and advocacy, because it's such an under-acknowledged thing that we have, periodic paralysis and rare diseases in general. I think that's part of what I want to go on and do, and that was so inspiring to me, was you all and meeting you. And I'm so excited to meet all of you after and talk, and that'll be great. And I guess I want to say thanks to all of you, because what all of you have done, and especially my mom, and every time I hear a story and meet someone new with periodic paralysis, it gives a face to what the ride was about, and that's just so inspiring and incredible. And I think I have something I want to share with you guys, which is a song that I wrote about rare diseases, and I guess we could try to set that up. Yeah, why don't we do that? And after, I guess I'll open it up for, I don't know how much time we have, but I'd love to hear questions, and then I have something really exciting after all of that at the end. But is that all right?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. So, can we get that little mic? Awesome. Yes. Oh, there we go. Hello, hello. That's working. Sure. Can I move it over here so I can see the lyrics a little bit? Go over on that side.
Sure.
Perfect. Okay, great. Sorry. Okay. So, I had a lot of time to think on my ride, and one of the things I do is just think of little songs and things. I'm also a singer, so I'm really excited to share this with you guys. And I shared it last week at the big, or 2 weeks ago at the big finale of the Ride for Rare Diseases, and it was incredible. But, all right. Oh, doctor, doctor, please don't tell me you don't know what to do. Not again, for the millionth time. How will I ever be able to make it through? Oh, it's so hard to not feel scarred when again and again the answer is I don't know. With this disease I feel so weak, and it's so much worse when I feel all alone. Because I'm rare, it's so easy to feel like no one cares, like something broken far beyond repair. It's not easy to be rare. It's not easy. There is one thing that will lift you on your feet. Getting confirmation, diagnosis can be that long-awaited relief. Yeah, there is hope, there's a light. I'm not alone in this fight. But now I know where I belong, and everything shines so much brighter. 'Cause I'm rare. Now I really feel like someone cares. No longer like I'm broke beyond repair. It's still not easy, but it's easier to be rare. 'Cause we're rare. Together we all feel, and we know we care. No longer like we're broke beyond repair. It's not easy, but it's easier to be rare. There we go. Thank you. Sorry. And all right. Now comes the really exciting part. Sorry I'm taking so long, but Jake, you come up here with me. So we had a GoFundMe campaign. Oh, and also
Go for the camera.
Go for the camera. What? We had a GoFundMe campaign for this ride, and at first it was just to pay for my food because I didn't have any sponsor. But once Strongbridge stepped in, it was all to go to support and awareness and research. And you all are the best people I know that will put it in the right way. And we ended up at the end of the ride, we had $5,000 in our GoFundMe, which I thought was awesome. It was amazing. But when we arrived, we had $5,000. We were so excited, and a lady came, and her name was Elizabeth, and she, it was the first time she had seen she was diagnosed with periodic paralysis and had been diagnosed for many years, but this was the first time she'd ever met anyone else with the disease, and anyone else, who she could share an experience with, and that was so powerful to her that she decided to match the $5,000, and so now we're so excited to donate $10,000 to the Periodic Paralysis Association. Yeah, isn't that amazing? What?
Strong work, brother.
Thank you. I couldn't believe it. This is the most amazing thing. Wow.
That is awesome. Thank you so much. The PPA is going to be the appropriate steward for these. The PPA will be the appropriate stewards for these funds. We'll make sure that it goes to the right place, and we're working hard to make this stuff go away. So thank you so much, Gabe.
I know. Oh, thank you guys. No, you've been the greatest. Oh man. Wow.
So